comment. Danny, welcome. Good.
I get a question for both of you guys. I know Representative O'Day had mentioned that he'd been fairly active in organized labor before. My question for both of you is, do either of you condone the fraudulent doctor's notes that the teachers, some of the teachers in Wisconsin have gotten? And if not, what proactive steps would you take here in this state if, God forbid, the Wisconsin degree of teacher protests were to come to Massachusetts?
Well, again, it was you're mentioning something that and I thank you for your call. I appreciate that. You're mentioning something that we talked about on the way here, and there is no justifying and condoning sick outs and falsifying records if that's what's occurring. But the fact is that there are some issues that exist that both public employee unions in Wisconsin and the governor's office have to address. And one of the things that that we recognize as state legislators here in Massachusetts is that the contribution level of public employees here on both health care and pensions far exceeds that exists right now in Wisconsin.
Danny, what I do condone is making certain that all workers are treated with respect and dignity, and I don't know of what you're reporting to be accurate or inaccurate, but I know that is a huge concern. If the teachers who are teaching out there in Wisconsin have not been making it into work, that's a problem. We have to find a solution to that problem, but I do also think that what has transpired out there has put people at real loggerheads with one another, and we have to be able to make certain we can get both sides of this issue to the table and try to resolve it in an amicable way without the governor just saying this is the way it's going to be. There will be no negotiating of salaries and benefits. You just cannot do business that way.
And one of the things that we were going to talk about, and as we move further along, we could talk about this, is what happened yesterday in Boston. I know Representative O'Day was in Boston yesterday, was part of the rally that took place on the stairs, so he saw firsthand what was going on there, and maybe we can report on that in a little while. But first, there's another caller on the line. Brian, you're on the air.
How you doing, Representative? How are you?
Good, thank you. How you doing, Brian?
Well, I'd like to know your thoughts on the legislators that failed to show up, that walked away from their duty as an elected official in Wisconsin and refused to come back to vote. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know what? Again, I mean, these are all great issues that that we should be talking about. Did they fail to do their duty? That's I guess a perspective that it's in the eye of the beholder. They didn't fail to do their duty if you're a union member and your collective bargaining rights are going to be evaporated. They prevented a vote from taking place until the minority voice. You got to remember. Protection of the you want a majority to prevail, but at the same time you have to do it through the protection of the minority voice. And sometimes the only way to get the minority voice is to do things you wouldn't normally do, and that's walking away so that a vote can't be taken.
Well, I don't think that's right. That's not American. I mean, they're elected officials by the people to vote. If you don't agree with the bill, you have the right to go in and vote no.
That's not necessarily
and vote no.
That's not necessarily true, Brian. You're elected to represent a group of people, that you come from, whatever district you come from, and you represent them to the best of your ability. And if a bill is going to be put through the only way you as a group can stop that bill from going through is by not being there for a quorum call, then that might be the course of action. It's never happened here in Massachusetts that I know of, but it was a way for them to get their voices across.
Well, I can guarantee you that you're going to see this snowball in other parts of the country, because what do you do when you have no more money? How do you answer that? There's no more money, so what do you do?
So So taking away every right that the workers in Wisconsin have, and I'm thinking now that you're sort of assuming that those workers are responsible for the situation that the state of Wisconsin is broke. I don't believe that to be the case. I don't think that the workers in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or in New York or in Virginia are responsible for their states being broke. So why are they the ones being asked to give up everything they've worked for?
In all due respect, I think absolutely they have something to do. What about Tom Kinton from Massport that cashed in $490,000 in sick time? Do you think that's justifiable?
Yeah, I wish I could be Tom Kinton in cash in. Jesus.
I think that's outrageous.
Yeah.
$200,000.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. In fact, but you know what? He's not. Yeah, he's not representative of the of the everyday public employee. You got to remember, public employees, just like anybody that's listening to the show, tries to figure out a way every day to pay the mortgage, pay the bills. They realize that their salaries are paid by tax dollars, but that does not necessarily mean that they shouldn't be able to have a living wage. And and what's happening in Wisconsin, there are issues that exist that the public employee unions need to address, and that's their contribution levels to their health care plan, that's their contribution levels to their retirement, their pension system, but there are other things that they, and I agree with them, they should be fighting for, and that's preservation of their collective bargaining rights. So for the governor to say that we are going to balance the budget by taking away collective bargaining rights is just intellectually dishonest. You balance the budget by shifting costs and by generating more revenue. You don't balance the budget by taking away collective bargaining rights. One has nothing to do with the other. Now, if he were saying my agenda is to balance the budget by doing X, Y, and Z, and then I want to take away collective bargaining rights because I don't think that public employee unions have the right to bargain like that, that's fine. That's fine. But he's not saying that. He says he needs to do it in order to balance the budget, and that's intellectually dishonest.
There's no other way to do it. I mean, it's plain and simple. There is no other way. There's no other source of revenue. So what do you do?
Brian, let me ask you this. Brian,
yes, sir.
Do collective bargaining rights have anything to do with the fact that they're in a deficit? It's the agreement that they've reached. So is the contract that they've settled on more lucrative than they can afford? No question, yes. Do things need to happen in order to have a balanced budget? Absolutely, and the governor's right in saying that we're going to shift costs from the state back to the employee. However, that has nothing to do with the collective bargaining rights.
As well as I do that, if their collective bargaining rights are not, there's not a stronghold put on those, they'll be right back at it next year, trying to fight back for what they've lost. It's inevitable. That's why they have those, and something needs to be done about it. Even in this state of Massachusetts, if you can answer this for me, and I think I have a real good idea, we're one of the last states in the country to have a prevailing wage law, and our prevailing wages are way out of whack. Mm-hmm. They're way out of whack, and that is instituted by the unions. They instituted those labor rates, and I think those are way off base.
But again, to get to the point that you called on, which is the fact that you need to balance a budget by getting rid of collective bargaining rights, just is not true. And and quite honestly, I think the governor is right when he says we need to shift costs from state government to the employee. But at the same time, one issue has nothing to do with the other. So, Brian, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening. This is Representative Vincent Pedoni. We're going to go to Jerry, who's on the line.